Live. We are live. Just getting this ready. Just getting us ready on YouTube. It's always a hassle finding the link. Just getting us ready on YouTube. It's always a hassle finding the link. Okay, I got it. Okay. If you are there, folks, please let me know so we can get started. I'm just doing one final social media post. And I think we're ready to roll. Great. So let's see what's going on over here. On Faith. Wow. This is great. Lots of people here. This is good. Okay, good morning, Marty and Susan Benson and Hannah Siegelstein. Good morning, Marty. Dean Devansky's here. Mickey Gottlieb. Good morning, Dean. Daniel Klein from New York. And Boca. Susan, I'm finally live. Very nice. I have listened to others in the evening. This is good stuff. Good morning. Marilyn is here. Marilyn, Shalom, Honigfeld. Marilyn, your sisters are joining us here today. Mickey Hineni. Good stuff. Let's get cracking. Now, folks, what I'm going to try to do now today, I just want to let you know, is that I'm going to try to make this, as we're getting better at this online learning platform, is I'm actually going to call on you. I'm going to try to engage as if we're sitting around the table. That's my goal right now. I'm going to try to engage as if we're sitting around this table. I'm going to ask you that I feed off the energy of my congregation. And I really feel that that's true. Good morning, Stephanie. Welcome. I feel that that's true, that I do feed off the energy of my people, of my students. If I know that you're there with me and that you're connecting and engaging, I go more into it. But if not, I kind of lose it, you know? I met someone yesterday from a distance who was really suffering the effects of being distant from other people. You know, I was reading a headline this morning that the heck might be going the way of the dinosaur. So we're really going to prepare ourselves for an opportunity to engage more with each other. As much as we're socially distant right now, we have to be more emotionally engaged. So I'd like to encourage you right now to engage more, to participate more in this conversation, to comment more, so we can really try to tap in there. Good morning, Rob Berger. Stephanie, I think I said hello already. And on YouTube, we're in both places. Good morning, Brandon. Both on YouTube and on Facebook. And let's get cracking. If you already have this book, remember to respect your time. I'm doing this down to 25 minutes each. 25 minutes max each session. We have one session of Gates of Trust, another session of Talmud. That way, you know, by 9:30, this lesson's over. We have one more lesson, an introduction to Jewish spirituality and meditation through prayer. Right after that, every day, 25 minutes each, and we're done. That way, you don't have to go endlessly here. Good morning, everybody. And if you just tuned in, you're listening to Souls on Fire. We are the scholars of the Jewish community learning live together. And I really encourage and look forward to your comments. Great to know that Harvey is with us. Now that Harvey's here, I'm ready to roll. Ed made it too. Good morning, Ed Hockman. Good. Okay, so we're encouraging your comments and feedback. We are moving forward. We're in this book, Gates of Trust. It's actually called Duties of the Heart, a 13th century work. Rabbeinu Bachaye is a brilliant teacher and so analytical, as you may have noticed already. We are moving forward. If you happen to have the book, we're on page 363. If you don't have the book, we just follow along. We're learning about the benefits of trust in God. It's based upon the doctrine, an incredibly powerful doctrine called Tracht gut, wird sein gut. Think good and it will be good. Your thoughts have the power to change your circumstances. I know it sounds out of this world, and it is out of this world, but your thoughts have the power to change your circumstances. I was watching a video somebody sent me yesterday that, you know, science has discovered the subatomic level. The subatomic level of everything, which is genes. But the genes themselves have a subatomic level, and that is controlled by the brain. I've got to study this a little bit more. Basically, the concept is how science has come to the conclusion that our thoughts control how we feel. Our mind controls, our beliefs basically control what happens to us within our bodies. It's a fascinating presentation. I got to watch it again. And with that in mind, we know that what our Torah has been telling us for thousands of years, that our thoughts control what happens to us, is an extraordinary doctrine, something very, very powerful. And as we face the challenges of coronavirus today and fluctuating economies, it's very, very important for us to keep a solid frame of mind, to be closely connected to God, to trust in God always with a perfect trust. A perfect trust means zero anxiety. And if you can do that, everything's going to change around you. So we're on page 363. If you have the book, we're moving forward. We said yesterday that someone who trusts in God won't need to travel, doesn't get stressed out by money. What that means is that he doesn't feel that he has to go find his fortune in somewhere else. He knows God can provide for me right here. And we brought a very interesting story yesterday about a traveler, a believer, a monotheist, who met an idolater, and he was scolding the idolater for believing in idolatry. And the idolater counter-scolded him by saying that the one who trusts in God, he doesn't have to schlep. He's not a schlepper. He doesn't have to schlep to the other ends of the earth because he knows that God will provide whatever he needs where he is. I'm continuing with today's new session. Other advantages are emancipation of soul and body from wearying occupations and from professions that exhaust the body, and avoidance of the service of kings, enforcement of their laws, and oppression of their subjects. One who trusts in God chooses a source of livelihood that offers his body more rest, acquires for him a good name, affords him leisure for reflection. He is nobody's slave. He is nobody's slave. The one who trusts in God doesn't feel that he is indebted to anyone, to anybody other than God. Nobody has any power over me. And I got to tell you, me as on a personal level as a Chabad rabbi, yes, we do survive through the donations and contributions of local people, but we never sell our souls to our donors. If someone waves a checkbook in our face and he says, listen, Rabbi, you're going to do this or else, we say, fine, have a nice day. Go find yourself another show, because we know our allegiance is only to God Almighty. That's it. And not to say that this is easy. Sometimes it could be a great test when someone waves a checkbook in your face and he says, you will do what I say or else. It takes tremendous trust in God. But I figure as a rabbi, if I can't trust in God, then what? Then what am I worth, So that's basically the bottom line. Good morning, Devorah Chana. I wonder if you ever feel that's a challenge for you. Harvey, I know you're in the business world. Rob, you're in the legal world. Do you ever find that people are, Harvey and Rob, I'm asking you specifically a question. If you guys ever feel that you have to read, it's hard in the legal world of Chicagoland to, do you feel that people try to control you financially? Does that ever happen to you, Rob? Harvey? Please let me know. I'm curious to know, or maybe anybody else if you have comments on that, but I'm curious to know if that's something which you struggle with, because I have to tell you as a rabbi, it does happen once in a while. And it's not pleasant, but it's a time to prove your faith. So the one who trusts in God chooses a source of livelihood that offers his body more rest, acquires for him a good name, affords him leisure for reflection, is most conducive to fulfilling his religious duties, and is in harmony with his beliefs. For practical means will not in the slightest degree either increase one's portion or decrease from it. Practical means will not give you more money or less money unless it is God's decree. My allegiance is only to God, nobody else. I have no stress. As long as my relationship with God is in a good place, I'm happy. I have nothing else to worry about. Unless it is by God's decree. As it says, quote, for not from the east or from the west, and not from the wilderness is one lifted up, but it is God who judges, bringing down one and lifting up another. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He guides me beside calm waters. I want you to realize, I met someone yesterday who was very, very stressed out by the economy. Now, this is normal. It's human to be stressed out by a fluctuating economy. But one who trusts in God doesn't get stressed out by the NASDAQ or the stock exchange or the financials. Doesn't get stressed out. He knows everything is from Hashem. It's that state of mind of tranquility and of serenity. It's the ability, by the way, today's Friday. It's the ability to just switch off on Shabbos. The world will continue, money and commerce will continue, and my business will continue, even though I switch off on Shabbos. Why? Because today is my day for God, and God is my boss. God is my provider. So what could possibly go wrong when I'm spending a day with my God, who is truly the provider? But if you believe that God is not your provider, someone else is your provider, you might have a very hard time switching off on Shabbos. And that's why I want to say to you, this Shabbos, again, like last week, is a Shabbos you have nowhere to go and nothing to do. Why don't you, I want to encourage you to try to keep this Shabbos like a full-blown Shabbos without any violation of Shabbos at all. See if you can turn your phone off before sundown tonight and just keep it off until Saturday night, nightfall. And then light the Shabbos candles, cook a meal with your family, with whoever's home with you, spend time learning Torah, talking to your family, to your loved ones. Don't turn on the television, don't turn on the internet, don't get in the car, just keep Shabbos and see how beautiful it is to spend the day dedicated to God, to your family, and to your faith. So Rob is making a point. Often as a lawyer, I had to take a case, or my firm made me take a case that I did not believe in. Fascinating. I did not have trust to believe that if I said no, I would still have a job. Rob, thank you so much for sharing that. That is such an interesting point that you make over there, Rob Berger. Such an interesting point that you feel that you lack then the trust to be able to say no because you felt that the firm or the client was your provider. I think I can say that I don't do anything which I'm not comfortable with, at least on a financial level. I don't know. It's an interesting question to think about. We are all human and we all struggle with this. I wonder if anybody else feels the same way. Hi, Stacy. I think you're in South Carolina. Does anybody here identify with Rob's point of feeling that you sold your soul sometimes to your business, to your client? I think we all struggle with this. But you know, the beautiful thing about Shabbos, Rob, is that Shabbos is the great equalizer. Like, you can't take this Shabbos away from me. Shabbos is sacrosanct. It is so holy. There is no way that you can schedule your meeting or your travel. I don't care how cheap the tickets are on Saturday or Friday night. It makes no difference. It's not an option. And with that, what Shabbos does is that it serves not only as a reminder to everybody else, but more importantly, it serves as a reminder to me, to myself, about who I am and where my allegiances are. And I think it's so beautiful, Rob, that you're able to have the courage and the strength to be able to make this comment right here. To say where you were and where you are. Because I believe you've moved so much further from that point. And it's so beautiful to see your spiritual progress. Thank you for sharing that comment. Another benefit, I'm moving forward, 363, bottom of the page. Another benefit is the reduction of aggravation. I mean, who wouldn't want to have a reduction of aggravation? You know, we all are living in such a hyper-connected society. It used to be that you sent a letter to someone, you were expecting a response within 3 weeks. Then came the email, and you expected a response within a day. Then came FedEx overnight, and you expected to respond same day. Then came text messaging, you expected to respond within an hour. Then came Apple text messaging with the 3 dots, or WhatsApp where it says typing. It says Harvey's typing. And you expect it to be on alert even before the message arrives. And if you don't, then what's the problem? We live in such a society which is so full of stress. We're looking for ways to detox. The way to detox is don't stress. You know what? The person who's waiting for my response can wait. It's not the source of my blessing. The source of my livelihood comes from God, not from my client. Who wouldn't want to adopt this tremendous benefit into your life? It's the doctrine of trust. Another benefit is the reduction of the aggravation he feels in his business dealings. If merchandise did not sell, and remember, this is very general 13th century terms. You're talking about merchandise. You might not be a merchant. You might not be selling kitchen items, but you know what? You're selling something else. You're selling on Amazon, or you're a big lawyer in Chicago with clients, whatever. I mean, merchandise. Just keep this as a very general interpretation. If merchandise does not sell, if he's unable to collect the debt, or if he falls sick, for he knows that the Creator. He's not stressed out because he knows that the Creator may be exalted, arranges his affairs, and chooses what is good, what is for his good better than he himself can. As it says, my soul waits quietly for God, and for my hope comes from him. I want you to know that many of these verses that we're quoting here are coming from the book of Psalms of King David. And I want you to reinterpret the book of Tehillim, the book of Psalms. We actually daven it every single morning. Ooh. Seeing a lot of comments coming in here. Let me just finish this point, then I'll get to the comments. I see every single morning we say the book of Psalms to Hillel. We say a chapter relating to the day of the month. And it's interesting that King David wrote his emotions in the book of Psalms. You'll notice that King David struggled with this. This is his life story. He had a lot of stresses in his life, more than you and I, because his own father-in-law was trying to kill him. And he had more enemies than the hairs on his head. King David had a rough life. His own father thought that he was a bastard. I mean, talking about having problems. King David was it. He was the epitome, the paradigm of a person with problems. Now, the book of Psalms is the GPS, the map for King David being able to stabilize his knee-jerk reaction, which is to fear and to have anxiety, and to go into a zone of meditation, of tranquility and peace and trust in God. You'll notice that throughout chapter 32 of Psalms, chapter 55 of Psalms, I mean, throughout the Psalms is a tremendous affirmation of David's reaching out to his faith. He makes me walk in green pastures. He guides me beside calm waters. I mean, it's David's verbalization of his commitment to Hashem, knowing that my faith lies with Hashem, even when there's a sword right above my head. And when we say these Psalms every day, we get back into that zone. Just to tell you how important it is to say the Tehillim. The Tzemach Tzedek says, the third Chabad Rebbe, if we only knew the power of the words of Tehillim, how they shatter all the darkest, harshest decrees, and they pierce through them all, going straight to the heavenly throne where they entreat God's mercy upon us. If we only knew the power of Psalms of Tehillim, we would say them incessantly. If you know somebody right now who is sick, or if you're worried about someone being sick, or if you're worried about yourself, or you're worried about your money, or whatever you're worried about, I encourage you, take out a book of Psalms and read it. If you don't already have a book of Psalms, you can buy one right here at the Chabad. You can come in any time of day. But it's because they bring us, me and you, into the zone of meditation, of trust in God, just like King David, to be able to give us, to draw upon us the blessing when we reach the zone. Remember, that's the doctrine of trust. You think good, that's what's going to cause your thinking positive. Your blind trust in God, that's what's going to bring about the blind blessing from God, whether you deserve it or not. So let's take a look at these comments over here. It's really busy. My brother Uriel joined from Manhattan. Nice to see you. Graciela, Boker Tov. Okay, so Harvey says, spend my life as a lawyer. Never let client control my judgment. Nice. Nice, Harvey, but may defer to their wishes as long as not compromising my principles of the law. Fine. So Harvey, looks like you had a more stronger foundation than Rob, or maybe Rob is being a little more open with us here. Of course, you're always above the table, Harvey. Thank you for sharing this, and I have no doubt that your integrity is certainly such that I can't imagine anybody stressing you. And that's a great, very, very powerful place to be. I don't know if it's fair to say that about everybody, because many of us are, we really struggle. And I speak for myself. It's not easy for me, really not easy for me. I mean, we are all tested. And when you're tested, it's really an act of faith. Every single one of us is tested. I'm going to tell you a quick story about King David being tested. One time, King David complained to God that in the prayer book, in the beginning of the Amidah, it says, God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He says, God, why doesn't it say God of David as well? So God says to him, it doesn't say God of David because they were tested and you weren't tested. So David says, no, so test me. So God says, okay, this is straight from the Talmud. So it says that David fell into deep sleep, and when he woke up, he had a desire to go shooting at birds. He goes up to the rooftop and he's shooting at a bird. What he didn't know is that the bird that he saw now was actually the Satan in the form of a bird. This was a setup. It was a test. And as he's shooting at the bird flies right in front of a teepee, one of those huts on a rooftop. And instead of hitting the bird, it hits the teepee. It blows the teepee off over. And underneath the teepee, it exposes a beautiful woman who is bathing. Who is that? You may have guessed it's Bathsheba. And David is like overcome with temptation. We know the rest of the story. He summoned her and he made her. He found out that she wasn't eligible. She was married, so he made her a widow, and he married her. But basically, God says to him, "See, you wanted to be tested, and you failed the test. You didn't pass the test." So that's why we don't say God of David in the beginning of that Midah, because Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob were tested, not us. But we don't want to be tested, not even if you're King David, and King David was a very holy Jew. So I speak to myself and many of us that it's important to know that God is testing us. The very fact that you know that God is testing you is already enough to give you strength to be able to overcome and endure that test. The fact that you know God Almighty is testing me, and we actually mention this in our morning blessings. As you wake up in the morning, the first few blessings you're supposed to say before you come to shul, we say, please God, don't test me today. Just don't test me. But if something harsh happens to you, remember it's a test. One of our members, Mitch, often says to me, he says, what would the Rebbe say? Whenever he has a dilemma, he says, what would the Rebbe say? And the fact that you know, the fact that you can be cognizant of the fact that this is a test, that itself gives you, sometimes I find it gives you the fortitude to be able to overcome it. When you know that you're being watched, that's when you know that you got the courage to get over it. Okay. Good morning, Len Nemes. Great to have you with us. Okay. So moving along to Marty. Unfortunately, my youngest daughter is an internist at Bellevue Hospital in New York, and she is so incredibly trying to help. So Marty, so what are you saying? You're saying she's incredibly stressed out. Okay. So stressed out is a sign of lack of trust in God. But I think that her stress is different because her stress is busy with saving people's lives. I think, Marty, in the case of your daughter and strength to her, being a healthcare provider and putting herself in danger in order to help save people's lives, I think that's extraordinary. But I don't think that that's unfortunate. I think it's an amazing thing that she's doing. And second of all, I think that her stress is more about the stress of helping people survive and being stressed out by their suffering. Can't imagine how much people are suffering right now through this virus. But I don't think her stress would be fair to say that it's I don't think it's fair to say that her stress is a lack of trust in God. I think the fact that she's going to the hospital is a sign of tremendous trust in God and strength to her. Susan, my gut is where I get a lot of direction from God, and it will tell me to act or not. If I act against those feelings, the result is usually not good. I've used this for many years, so I've learned to listen. Okay, so your gut tells you to get direction from God. That's great. That's great. And this is the kicker here. This is what's so important, is to be able to recognize that my blessing comes from God and only from God. It says that whether you get it from your gut or you get it from your head, doesn't make a difference. Your gut or your head, it doesn't really make a difference. As long as you know the source of your blessing, that's tremendous. And maybe, Susan, that's why you actually live a very happy life. Susan is very serene, at least in my observation. She's very serene. She's always smiling. She's very happy. And this, I think, is the marker of a person that trusts in God. You know, I met a Jew here from Old Palm a while ago. And, you know, he's a really cool guy, chatting with him. And I'm trying to introduce myself. So I said to him, hey, I said, Larry, so have you ever heard of Chabad before? And he says, yeah, I've heard of Chabad before. So I said, what do you know about Chabad? He says, Chabad is the happy Jews. And I said, you know what? I could not have said it better than you just did. I love that definition. Chabad is the happy Jews, because I feel that we are instilled through the study of Chabad philosophy, we're instilled with an awareness of God's presence. And in a study just like this, that just helps us reach a state of serenity. And as you're studying with me here, you're also a Chabadnik. We're all in this together. We're all learning together. And I'm hoping that this is going to bring you, the purpose of this study every morning is to bring you to a state of greater happiness, of higher consciousness, of greater enlightenment. And that's the goal here. So folks, let's keep it going. Thank you very, very much for these very, very beautiful comments. We should do one quick paragraph to finish the paragraph. Another benefit is that he is happy. He is happy in whatever situation he is placed in, even if it is contrary to his nature, because he trusts in God that he will do only what is for his good in all things. Just as a caring mother, great meditation here, just as a caring mother acts towards her infant child, bathing it, diapering it, swaddling it, and unswaddling it, without regard to the infant's will. The baby knows mom is doing whatever's in my best interest, and that's how we relate to God. We say, God, you know what? Even when a baby gets a shot, and this is so important. Even when a baby gets a shot, the baby looks at mom and he's like, Mom, how could you do this to me? But deep down, the baby knows that mom is doing this out of love. And when we get a shot, we are being swaddled by God's love. We're God's child. We're God's baby. God is protecting and nurturing us and watching over us. And sometimes, this is what we learned. We had a Farbrengen, the men's Farbrengen this week. We learned that there's no such thing that comes from, no such thing as evil that comes from God. No such thing as evil that comes from God. There's only revealed good and hidden good. I think I blew some people's minds this week with this idea. There's only revealed good and there's hidden good. There's no such thing as evil that comes from God. And we can understand this in this context when we realize that God is our loving parent. And just like your mom would never hurt you as a baby, at least, hopefully, so too, God, more than your mother, would never hurt you. God would certainly never hurt you because God is almighty and all kind and all loving. Right? As David, peace be upon him, said again in the book of Psalms, which I encourage you to read and say daily, surely I have stilled and quieted my soul like a weaned child with its mother. My soul is with me like a weaned child. Harvey's comment, I need to add, Berger was and is a great lawyer. There is no doubt that Rob Berger is top of the line. And in fact, if I'm not mistaken, Harvey, did you give him his first job? I think you hired him. So Rob Berger is certainly the most extraordinary human being that one of the most extraordinary people I've met. All trial lawyers get stressed trying a case and seeking justice for your client. Sometimes you lose, you feel worse for the client. Absolutely not. It was Rob's openness and honesty that I cherish in our relationship. We're always very honest and open with each other. And it's an extraordinary self-criticism and an ability to make fun of himself, to just to make light of any situation. I value Rob, your attitude and your attitude in life and your ability to self-deprecate, is something very, very beautiful and admirable, and certainly is a mile, as we say in Hebrew, what I view as a tremendous advantage, instead of, God forbid, the opposite. What makes you who you are. Folks, I'm moving over. Oh, Mickey. Buenos dias, Major. Mickey, are you saying that there is no such thing as evil? Yes, Mickey. Phew. I was wondering where you were. I said there is no such thing as evil. That's exactly what I said. There is no such thing as evil. And I'm sorry to say this in the last minute of my Gates of Trust study here. But yeah, I'm going to say it again. There is no such thing. Ein ra yored milamayla. I didn't make this up, Mickey. Don't shoot the messenger here. It says it in the Torah. There is no such thing as evil that comes from God. God is the provider of everything that happens. He's the conductor of all events in the universe. And God is only good. By the way, I did speak about this on the radio show coming up this Sunday. It's on our upcoming radio show. And I hope that you'll like it. It's about this exact idea about no evil descending from God. And everything is either revealed good or hidden good. And your inability to see how... your inability to see how something is good is not God's problem. It's your problem. It's my problem, because we have the wrong glasses. And just like we can't see the coronavirus, we look at a doorknob and we see a doorknob. We don't see deadly COVID-19 on the doorknob because we are blind to what's really going on in the doorknob. So too, just because you see something that looks evil doesn't mean that it is evil. It's your eyesight, your glasses, your vision that needs to be corrected, not God's. And that's the principle that I laid. And we will be talking about this more and more and more in our study of the Gates of Trust, the Jewish way to conquering fear and anxiety. Rob, no, you're not dead yet. We love you, Rob. You're the best. What about the evil angel Satan? Okay, great question, Marty. Really great question. Evil angel Satan is not evil at all. The evil angel Satan is a very good angel. He is a special mission, special forces agent. He's like the Sayeret Matkal, the Israeli elite forces. They go deep behind enemy territory. You know the Mistalvim unit in Israel and the Israeli army, the ones that dress up like Arabs. And in Fauda, the Fauda film, they dress up, the Israeli soldiers, they dress up like Arabs, they live amongst the Arabs, and they look like Arabs, but really they're Jewish soldiers. That's what the Satan is. He is a guy, he's devoted angel, a holy angel of God, whose mission it is to test us. In fact, the word Satan in English means horrible things. It's like the Satan. But in Hebrew, the Satan is exactly the same word as the Sota that we've learned about in Talmud. The Sota is the woman who strays from the path. She goes to adultery. So to the Satan, the word Satan means to deviate. This is the guy, the angel, whose job it is to lead you astray, to test you, to see if you really are devoted to God. So a lot of action going on over here. So I hope that answers your question, Marty, about the Satan not being a bad guy. He's actually a good guy. There is no such thing as evil that comes from God. Mickey, I can understand hidden good, but clearly is evil on this earth. Clearly there is evil on this earth. Again, Mickey, clearly evil is in your perception. There is evil on this earth. But how can you say that you know the depth of what's going on? Oh, yeah, we opened the Pandora's box here. This is good. Marty says, oi, it's Meshuggah, the Holocaust. We're back to the Holocaust, folks. Back to the Holocaust. The Holocaust wasn't an act of evil. Warren, we had a farbrengen about this whole thing. How about we do this? Let's put the Holocaust on the side, okay? Let's put the Holocaust on the side. It was supposed to be a 25-minute session. I'm gonna try to save myself. Can anybody come to my defense over here? Is there anybody? There you go, Rob Berger. Thank you, Rob. Give the Holocaust a rest. You can watch the video. It's on YouTube. The Farbrengen. I spoke about the Holocaust. But anyways, let me think a second. Let me just say something about the Holocaust. Okay, you know what? I'm going to say something about the Holocaust. Here goes. Here goes. The Holocaust. My lawyer defended me. Thank you, Rob. I'm going to say to you something about the Holocaust, which is probably the most out there proposition about the Holocaust you've ever heard. And I hope I'm never taken out of context with this one. Okay? I'm going to make a preposterous suggestion. Only to illustrate, this is for illustration purposes only. Do not try this at home. Please do not quote me ever on this next thing, which I'm about to say. It's only in the very controversial context of this conversation. Yeah, I'm going to talk about Daniel Pearl in a second. Right now, Mickey, okay? Right now. Well, I'm going to put Daniel Pearl, the Chabadniks of Mumbai, and the Holocaust all together. How's this? We as human beings have very limited vision. We've got tunnel vision. To us, life begins at birth and life ends at death. And therefore, if you died, this cannot possibly be good. You can't explain death in a good way because death is the end of the road. It's all over, right? Wrong. Because death is not the end of the road. Death is the end of our inhabiting our physical body. After we inhabit our physical body, we move on into a spiritual existence, which is our true existence, where we experience an eternal existence. Now, what's more important, 70 or 120 years in a physical life, or eternity in a soul life? What's more important? 120 years in a physical body, or living forever as a spiritual being. Now, let's not minimize the value and importance of spirituality. Spirituality is like music. Spirituality is like math. Spirituality is wisdom. You can't say that wisdom is not real. Wisdom is very, very, very real. It's timeless. It's limitless. It's everywhere. So wisdom is spirituality. You can't say it doesn't exist. So if I have a soul that lives forever and I have a body that lives for 120 years, you can't tell me that my life ended when a person died, when he went to the cemetery. That's actually not a time of death. It's a time of release. when the body is no longer when the soul is no longer shackled to the body, no longer tethered to the body, it's not able to release like a hot air balloon. It's able to go wherever it wants to go. Therefore, death is not the end of the road. Death, it doesn't mean that there's no happy ending. So when it comes to a guy like Daniel Pearl, or the Chabadniks in Mumbai, or the Holocaust, could it be, let's suggest what I'm about to suggest, totally off the record, even though I'm on Facebook Live and the whole world can see this. So again, please don't quote me out of context. Could it be that maybe these people were idolaters in a previous lifetime? Let's say a totally preposterous suggestion. And they came to God and they said, God, give us an opportunity to come back to this world so that we can experience the opportunity to give up our lives for what we believe in. Allow us the opportunity to literally die for what we believe in. Could it be that a soul requested that from God in heaven? A daring suggestion. And please, again, it's totally not to try this at home. I wonder what you think about it. But please, don't say, I'm not saying that all these people that died for God were idolaters. I'm not saying that they were evil or deserving or anything. I think the transmission must have frozen. Whew. Yeah, it looks like our video stopped. Ouch. Are the people on YouTube able to see us? Brandon, are you still there? Can you see us on YouTube? Because it looks like we're rapidly declining in Facebook, either because what I'm saying is terribly controversial or because the internet connection is down. Let's see the comments. Mickey, Tali Ruch joined, Brandon joined, Marty. Why do we say life is a journey and death a destination? I have no idea who says that. No idea. Death is not a destination, it's a journey. Jan, transmission froze. Susan, video stopped. Robert, frozen. Are you back with me, folks? YouTube is up, okay? Must be something the rabbi said. Oy vey. Okay, anybody here on YouTube? I'm going to tell you where to move to YouTube. Let's give you the link on YouTube. Can you see us on YouTube, folks? I see there's only 5 viewers here on Facebook. Oh, vey, what a mess. Yes, Julia's there with you. So is that Julia or Brandon? Julia, you there too? Is that you, Julia? Back on. Oh, we're back on. Okay, folks, let's get back on. So we're on YouTube. We're on Facebook, I think. Yes, maybe it's giving us time to absorb what you're saying. I'm in total agreement with what you said so far. Thank you, Susan. Thank you. Oh. Andy's on. Whoa. We are having some serious Facebook issues, folks. People are with us on YouTube. I see people are joining us. Marty, Facebook froze, came to on YouTube. I think God did not agree with you, Julia. Facebook froze, which YouTube. Marty ended your video ended on Facebook. Facebook is down. What do you mean? What happened? Did we just shut down the whole Facebook? Is what I said so controversial? Unbelievable. You see the power of thought, man. I think we shut down the whole Facebook. It's not letting me get back on Facebook. Facebook is totally non-responsive. I think we blew a fuse in the universe. I think we might have blown a fuse in Mark Zuckerberg. He might be so mad with us. Oy vey, what a mess. Let's see, Mickey's calling me. Mickey, what's up? Did I offend Mark Zuckerberg or something? Okay, we're on YouTube, Mickey. Can you join us on YouTube? Yeah, I'm going to tell everybody to go to YouTube. There's something very spiritual going on here. So Jan says we're on. But Jan, are we on Facebook or on YouTube? Which one are we on? I mean, I know we're on YouTube. YouTube's the best, by the way. YouTube's the best. See you there, Mickey. Thanks. I'm going to try to do Facebook as well. Man, that was heavy. I don't know what we just did over there, but that was pretty intense. Sheesh. I don't know what's going on, but hey, we get a better carry on YouTube. No, Brandon. No. Sorry, my concept of death does not sound weirdly Christian, and I'm going to address that right now. Okay. Phew. Anyways, I'm glad you said that. Yeah, evil took over. Okay, fine. So there's something weird going on. Last year during the Pesach Seder, I was right here at the Chabad. We had a big communal Seder, and at one point I was talking about something, and I raised my hands up and I said, and God said, or God spoke, and suddenly there was this flash of thunder. It was an incredible, incredible moment. But we must be onto something. I think in the last moments of my 25-minute allotment for the Gates of Trust, I ran into a problem over here when I said that no evil descends from above. Everything is only either revealed goodness or hidden goodness. There is no option for hidden goodness. Folks, I see that Facebook is totally down. I don't know if Facebook is. I think we crashed the entire Facebook, or maybe, yeah, whatever. So I'm going to try to go back live on Facebook one more time as well while we're on YouTube. One more time. I think we crashed the whole Facebook website from this heavy conversation. So yeah, it's not even loading. It's give me 5 seconds over here. Okay, I think I'm getting there. I'm getting close. I'm getting in. Okay, let's see if this loads. Okay, I'm posting it now. Let's see if it goes. 3, 2, 1 on Facebook. Let's see if we can get back on Facebook. I think we're on. Yes, we are back on Facebook. Okay, so if you're on YouTube, I highly encourage you to stay on YouTube. YouTube is in general the best place to be because Facebook, the quality of the video is low. So yeah, we're on Facebook and okay, good. So if you want to join us on Facebook, that's great. If not, just stay on YouTube. Anyways, back to this conversation. I was in the middle of saying, guys, that no evil descends from above. People asking a question. I definitely got your attention when I said that no evil descends from above. It only looks evil to you because it's hidden good, but it's hidden good. So somebody asked, what about Daniel Pearl? He was executed. That was the end of his life. So let's talk about Daniel Pearl a second. Could it be so many idolaters or sinners in the history of the Jewish people? Before I go there, just one step back. When the Jewish people were in the desert, Moses hits the rock. Have you ever wondered why Moses hit the rock? I mean, seriously. Have you ever wondered why he would do that? Moses, who's this guy that always, forever, he would listen to exactly what God wanted him to do. When he didn't understand something, he made it very clear to God that he didn't understand what's going on. He made it very, very clear to God that he didn't understand. He's like, God, I don't know what a coin looks like. So, when he had to donate the half a shekel, so God shows him a coin of fire. We spoke about when he didn't know how to make the menorah, God makes him a menorah, a fire. When he didn't know what the new moon looks like to sanctify the new moon, God shows him. When he didn't know what an esrog was, God sends angels to Calabria and Italy to bring him an esrog, which is why the Calabria esrogs are the premium esrogs. They're much more expensive, right? So when Moses didn't know what to do, he said so. Here he comes in the desert, and God tells him to talk to the rock, to let the water come out of the rock. And he strikes the rock, he hits it, and God says, you struck the rock, you didn't listen to me, you can't come into the promised land. Why would he do this? What's going on over here? God told him to take his rod to the rock. Rob, you're right. There was a little interesting thing there. It was a setup, right? Interesting, Rob. A good point you got there. So, but still, he tells him to speak to the rock. The first time he told him to hit the rock. The second time he told him to speak to the rock. So what's going on over here? Moses understood the following truth. He knew that if he was going to enter the promised land, that he would be the Mashiach. And that would be the redemption of the entire Jewish people. The world would reach its state of perfection, the purpose for which it was created 2,448 years after the creation of the world. Mashiach would have come. But Moses wanted to give an opportunity to the generation that lived with him in the desert, the generation that died in the desert, those that served the golden calf. He wanted to give them the opportunity to do teshuvah. And that's why Moses throws himself under a bus. He hits the rock. He puts his own neck on the block so that he takes the bullet for the team, so that he doesn't come into the promised land. Mashiach doesn't come, so that generation that died in the desert will have the opportunity to do teshuvah and thus to be able to experience the era of redemption. To be able to participate in the era of redemption. Now, I've got news for you folks. Do you know who that generation was that died in the desert? The generation that served idols, that came out of Egypt and served the golden calf, and that was destined to die in the desert over 40 years? The Arizal tells us, the saintly Arizal tells us that the Jews that died in the desert will be the generation that is alive to welcome the Mashiach. The last generation of exile, the generation that will welcome Mashiach, that is the same generation that died in the desert. Now, since the Rebbe tells us that ours is the generation that will welcome Mashiach, and I'm telling you, this whole coronavirus thing is absolutely the footsteps of Mashiach. It says in the Talmud that in the month of Passover, the month of Nisan, the Jews were redeemed from Egypt, and in the month of Nisan, the Jews will be redeemed from the current exile. Mashiach is coming this month, folks. I believe it with every fiber of my being. We, you and I, Jan Moskowitz, you and me are the people that died in the desert. We came out of Egypt, we served the golden calf, and we were denied access to the promised land. Moses took the bullet for us. He hit the rock so that you and I can come back to this world and have the opportunity to do teshuvah right here, right now, when we learn about the doctrine of blind trust in God. And when we lay tefillin every day, when we do mitzvahs. So Moses wanted to give us the opportunity to do teshuvah. Same thing is what I'm suggesting based upon that premise. I'm saying, could it be that the people that died in the Holocaust asked of God, they pleaded with God with an opportunity? Maybe they did something so evil in a previous reincarnation of theirs, a previous lifetime, that they asked of God for the opportunity to come back to this world, to be able to sanctify the name of God. Please do not quote me on that. It's just for the purposes of this very intimate conversation. But I'm curious to know how you feel about that. And thus we realize, with that attitude, you'll realize that death is not the end. Somebody said earlier, I'm not sure if it was on Facebook or on YouTube, that why do we say that life is a journey and death is a destination? I have no idea who says that. In fact, I don't think I've ever heard of that before, because that certainly is not a Jewish concept. You know how you say life in Hebrew? You say chayim. Chayim doesn't mean life, it means lives in the plural, L-I-V-E-S. Chayim is lives, plural, because lives come in bunches. We are reincarnated. We're here not once, we're here more than one time in order to fulfill our purpose and our mission in this world. That's why we're here. So you can't tell me that death is the be-all and end-all, that Daniel Pearl's death was certainly evil, that the death of the Shluchim in Mumbai was definitely an evil act, or even that the Holocaust is definitely an evil act. We know that our perception is limited, and the coronavirus is the greatest proof of that. You look at a doorknob, it's shining, it's glistening, but you don't realize that it's got death all over that door. It's got COVID-19 on the door, on the doorpost. You just can't see it. COVID-19 helps us realize that there's so much more that we cannot see. In fact, there's more that we cannot see more than what we can see. And that's how I'm suggesting to you that in order to accept this principle of Tanya, by the way, it's the Tanya that says it, the Alter Rebbe. The principle, well, the Tanya, explains it. The principle is from the Talmud. Ein ra yered milamayla. The principle is that no evil descends from heaven. God is only good, and there's only either revealed good or hidden good. There is nothing else. So I'm checking out the comments now on YouTube. I definitely see that Facebook is down. Definitely. There's no option. I've never had this before where we literally crashed the website. Folks, I'm telling you, what we're saying is so important. It is so powerful. I'll give you a quick example. You know, when Abraham and Isaac were heading towards the Akedah, the binding of Isaac, it says that as they were heading towards the binding of Isaac, a river formed. Satan formed a river, a raging river to block their ability to progress further. Now, what would you do if God asked you to do something which you were clearly not comfortable with? And as you go out, a hurricane forms. And there's like an advisory, do not step out. There are hurricane and lightning storms. You are taking your life in your own hands if you venture out. You'd probably say, yeah, not meant to be. I'm going home. Not happening. Abraham didn't do that. Avram and Yitzchak, they proceed. They realize if God told me to do something, I'm moving forward. The Satan was testing their resolve. And that's why he created a raging river that was going to block their access. Because when you're doing something important, the Satan tries to block you. And that's just what happened on Facebook, guys. I think what we're doing is so critically important to breaking the damn wall of this coronavirus situation. This was so important, this idea that we're learning about, to break the coronavirus and to solve it, that the Satan shut us down on Facebook. Because the Tanya says that the moment that you come and make peace with this concept, that there is no such evil, there's no such thing as evil, the moment you identify with the notion that only good comes from God, and what looks like evil is actually hidden good, that realization shatters the mirage, it shatters the disguise, it unveils the masquerade, and it causes the hidden good to become revealed good. So I believe that the Facebook live feed crashed because what we were saying was so critically important. When you see that you are facing with challenges, when you find that you've got problems, that's when you know that what you're doing is important in general. For example, if you find that you have a very hard time coming to shul or giving charity or whatever something which is personally very difficult for you, that's when you know that thing is very important for you. So what we're doing is clearly very, very important. Okay, Andy says, or Facebook censored. I think that's what you're saying because I can't see the end of your comment. Whatever. The Mashiach may be coming, but why are these comments being cut off? Okay, I got to address some of these issues because you got a lot of good comments over here. I'm just going to go in order on the YouTube comments because, again, Facebook is totally down. It's not working. I'm going back to the YouTube comments just in order. Facebook froze. Julia says, I think God did not agree with you. My point, Julia, is I think God did agree with me. It's the Satan who's testing us, like the river that formed in front of Abraham and Isaac on the way to do the most important act of their life, which was the binding of Isaac upon the altar. Rob's on YouTube. Marty, we ended on Facebook. Facebook is down. YouTube is off. Okay. So Marty says, life is a journey and death is the destination. Why do we believe this? We do not believe this, Marty. We reject the notion that death is a destination. I don't know where that comes from. I never heard of that before. Do you know where the source is for that? I'm so curious to know where that comes from. I have no idea. But it's definitely nothing which I believe. Jan says, we're back on YouTube. The concept of death sounds weirdly Christian. Now, Brandon, I want to address your point about the concept of death sounding weirdly Christian. You have to remember about anything which comes from Christianity is one of two things. Remember, Christianity is a very recent religion. It's only 2,000 years old. It's like a little baby compared to Judaism, and it's 4,500 years old since Abraham. So anything in Christianity is either coming from Judaism or something that they made up. So with that in mind, if you're going to tell me that a concept sounds weirdly Christian, what you mean to say is that concept has been marketed well by the Christians when really it's a concept that they took from us. And I hope that makes sense to you. I hope you can relate to what I'm saying. We are the mothership. When a delegation of Jews came to the Pope about 10 years ago, one of the Jews here from Old Palm was in that delegation. I think it was the Pope Paul, JP. I think that one. He said to them, "Good evening, my elder brothers." That's how he greeted the delegation of Jews, 50 Jews, I think, that came to visit him. He said, "Good evening, my elder brothers." Christianity comes from Judaism. So you can't tell me that the concept sounds weirdly Christian. No, it means that they're better at marketing it, maybe. You can't. Someone said to me, "Oh, Rabbi, you can't believe in the Messiah. The Christians believe in the Messiah." I'm like, What am I supposed to do with the fact that they believe in the Messiah also? Where do you think they got it from? They got it from us. That doesn't mean it's no longer ours. It's not an exclusive that they got on it. They got it from us, and their marketing is probably much better than ours. Anyways, I hope that answers your question, Brandon. Tell me if you agree. As Jews, we emphasize the importance of life. Absolutely. We don't opt for the option of making ourselves, of putting ourselves in the line of danger. But if God makes it happen to us, if God does cause death, then we say, how could that be good? How could that be hidden good? But when we realize that life is a trajectory which began way, 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 way before birth and ends way, way, way after death. In fact, it's infinite because our souls are godly. And like God is infinite, so too we are immortal, forever, and indivisible, right? So like your 120 years on this earth is like a speck. It's like a drop in the ocean, a drop in the bucket. It's nothing. Think about it. We just happen to be living in a very tunnel vision where we define good in terms of the physical body and bad in terms of the physical body. But that's because we've got a very limited perception. Give you a quick example. So you got a 5-year-old. A 5-year-old defines good in terms of candies. Good is defined in terms of candies. Big candies is very good. Little candies is very bad. You give him $100 note to a 5-year-old. You know, imagine a father's giving out money, right? Afikoman presents. So to the kids on the block, he gives each one a candy, but to his own son, he gives him a piece of paper, $100 bill, or a prepaid college fund. So the kid will go crying to mom, why does dad hate me? All the kids, he gave them candies. Me, he just gave a piece of paper. Obviously, the 5-year-old doesn't get it. He doesn't understand that what dad gave you was the gift of your future. It was an incredible gift. A 5-year-old just doesn't understand this. We have to recognize our own limitations, that we are not the be-all and end-all. And I hope that makes sense to you. Let me know, Brandon, if you agree with what I'm saying. Okay. Mickey, finally. I just cannot agree with you when you say that there is no evil on this earth. Why then, when we ever say Hitler, we say, may his memory be obliterated and his name erased? Because he's a bad guy. He made bad choices. God doesn't do evil, is what I said, right? So God doesn't do evil. Do people do evil? Interesting question, Mickey. Very interesting question. So God doesn't do evil. Do people do evil? Well, based upon the premise of Ein Ra Yered Milamayla, no evil descends from above, and based upon the present premise that God is always in control, you're going to have to say that nothing that happens to us is evil. Do you remember the story of Gamzu the Tova? I said it the other day, of Nachumish Gamzu, that whatever happened to him, he said, this too is for the good. This too is for the good. And when his treasure was stolen, and when the emperor threw him in jail and he was about to kill him, he always said, this too is for the good, and it turned out for the good. I don't want to say the whole story again, but basically the premise of Gamzu the Tova, this too is for the good, is a game-changing premise. The premise, I accept, Mickey, that you can't understand that. I accept that you cannot understand it, but what I'm asking you to do is lech lecha. Lech lecha means go out of yourself. Get out of your box. Get out of your comfort zones. That's what God tells Abraham the first time he meets him. He says, I want you to get out of the world that you were raised, get out of your education, get out of your pigeonhole, get out of your box, and I want to reinvent our relationship. That's what God says to Abraham. Mickey, I'm saying the same thing to you. I know that intellectually you're struggling with this concept. I know that, and I validate your struggle. But I am asking you to reinvent yourself. Harvey, are you here? I'm wondering what you think about this. You've got a very, very insightful perception on these things. I'm very curious to know, Harvey, if you're here, if you can share your thoughts on this as well. But Mickey, I encourage you to try to broaden your horizons and try to allow yourself, that's the key here, to allow yourself to open your horizons to the almighty power of God. Because for you to believe in God, and for you to believe that God is almighty, which I'm sure you do, and for you to believe that almighty God is unconditionally kind, which I know you do, if you put those three together, God is always in control, God is almighty and kind, unlimited kindness. I think that if you string those together, you'll come to the intellectual conclusion, not the emotional conclusion, but your head will agree to what I'm saying, to what the Torah is saying, even though your heart struggles. And my heart struggles too, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. My heart struggles also. I also have a cognitive dissonance. My mind is talking right now. My heart is feeling the pain. Okay? Julie, I understand your question. The Mashiach may be coming, but what do... let's cut off. Oops, continue. What do you say to the 6,000 people who lost their loved ones in Italy and the 1,000 that lost their loved ones here? People that died, Julia. Again, it's not the end of the road. Death is not the end of the road. Do you know what we call a cemetery in Hebrew, in Judaism? In Judaism, we call a cemetery two names that conflict. One is called the house of death, Beit HaKvarot. Another name we call a cemetery is Beit HaChaim, a house of life. A house of death and a house of life. How can the same thing have the same name? And the reason is it all depends on you. It depends on what's important to you and what you consider life. If you consider life the physical body, restaurants, cruises, vacations, physical experiences, then the cemetery is a house of death. But if you consider if you consider life about the soul, the neshama, about wisdom and music and love and emotions and experiences and, just spirituality, divinity, if that's what life is to you, then the cemetery is not a house of death. It's a house of life, actually, because now the body is deposited in the ground and the soul is free to soar wherever it wishes. So Marty says that this is always said at Jewish funerals. Marty, I've never heard this. I don't know which funerals you're going to. I've never heard that death is a destination. Maybe it's coming from Reform rabbis that don't believe in the afterlife. Maybe that's where it's coming from, probably. Maybe it's coming from rabbis that don't study Talmud, that don't believe in the afterlife. Maybe that's why they think death is a destination. I don't know. I've heard from rabbis that don't believe in the afterlife. I don't know. I don't know who says this. By rabbis. You said you heard about rabbis. Which kind of rabbis? Have you ever heard it from a rabbi that studies Talmud, from an Orthodox rabbi? Tell me. Let me know if that's the case. Mickey, per Google, quote of life is a journey. Life is a journey. Okay. So Ralph Waldo Emerson said life is a journey. Did he also say death is a destination? And besides, Ralph Waldo Emerson wasn't a rabbi last time I checked. So what's the big deal if Emerson said that life is a journey? But maybe you're supporting me, Mickey. I think you're supporting me. Surprising, but you're supporting me. Okay, Mickey's not alone. What is he saying? Okay, so Marty, what do you mean Mickey's not alone? Help me understand, Marty. What do you mean that Mickey's not alone? Not alone in not relating to what I'm saying. Fair. Fair if Mickey's not alone. I get it. I understand. My question to you guys, Marty, tell me, Mickey and Marty, is it your heart that can't accept what I'm saying about God not doing any evil? Gotcha. Okay, that there is no evil. Is it your heart that is not accepting it? But at least intellectually, are you able to understand it? That's my question to you. Marty, tell me. Mickey, tell me. The part that you're struggling with, is it that can your brain at least understand it intellectually without your heart? Can you separate? Can you sever the two? Let me know. Mickey, I can allow myself to believe in God and hidden good. But to say there is nothing evil on this earth, I cannot believe. Again, Mickey's saying, I can allow myself to believe in God and hidden good. See, he's okay with that. But to say that there is no evil, that he cannot believe. We really opened the Pandora's box over here. Elaine, I created good and I created evil. I don't think it says that. It says, behold, I've placed before you the good, the good and the evil. Behold, I've placed before you the good and the evil, the life and the death. Now, my interpretation of that, Elaine, by the way, wow, these comments are coming in at high speed. I can't even keep up. This is great, guys. Keep it up. Keep it up. So just to answer your question, Elaine, my understanding of that verse was always, I've put before you the good and the evil meant, what is truly good is that which is consistent with God. What is evil is that which is inconsistent with God. That's how I understood that to mean. In that context of what you're quoting, Elaine, in the end of the Torah, it says, I'm giving you a choice. Make sure you choose the right choice. Don't choose evil, choose good. It's not talking about evil happening to you. It's talking about your choice. Make sure it's a good choice, not an evil choice. That's my answer to you, Elaine. Okay, keep on going. Andy, God gives freedom of choice. So any person can do bad things. Right. So there is bad done by people when they choose to do so. So Andy's saying that the evil, and I think this is a happy medium that you guys would agree with. I'm not sure if I would agree with, but it's interesting what Andy's saying. He's saying that maybe God doesn't do evil. I think this is what you're saying, Andy. Correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe God doesn't do evil, and you might be okay with that. But people do evil. People do evil. And I'm okay with that. The problem is, why does God not intervene? Or how does God allow it to happen? Okay, Marty's saying clearly it's hard to accept no evil, even intellectually. Andy, you agree with what I'm saying? Good. Fine. So basically, what we're saying here is that like, I'm just trying to reframe this a second. Just a quick second. I want to reframe this. You're basically saying like this, that we all are in agreement. I think even Mickey might agree. I think Mickey does agree. Mickey, tell me if you do agree that God does no evil. And I think you would agree with me, Mickey, that when you say that there is evil, it's that humans do evil, like Amalek or Hitler or Hamas or whatever. Those guys do evil. Do you agree with that point? Is that what you're saying? Would you agree with that? Julia, human beings were given free choice, therefore it's possible that they turned away from good. God does not control a man doing medical experiments on Jews. So Mengele would have been evil by his own choice. Mickey, both my heart and Brian say evil exists, okay? Okay, good. Simtsum. Elaine is saying Simtsum, which is God hiding himself. Okay, interesting. Andy, for it to be freedom of choice, I finally caught up to the comments. For it to be freedom of choice, he has to allow the evil that people do to happen. So God, by his own limitation, self-imposed limitation, created a world in which we have free choice. For God to give us free choice, this is, it has to allow evil to happen. So you know what? I think I might concede to you here. I think I'm ready. I think I'm ready to concede, and I'll tell you why. Agree, God does no evil, but people do evil. Okay, fine. So I think we converged. Now, I want to tell you, I mentioned this in the Fabrengen the other night with the men, that there's a book by Aryeh Kaplan called If You Were God. And this is how he addresses this issue. If You Were God is a book by Aryeh Kaplan. It's available, whatever, I'm sure available online. He basically says, if you were God and you needed to coordinate life on an island which had warring factions of tribes, and you had whatever. I mean, I don't want to get into all the details, but you gave, if you were God and you gave people freedom of choice, you've got to allow them to make bad decisions, because if you intervene every time they make a bad decision, they're not going to have freedom of choice. So you know what? So now at this point, I think I'm going to concede and say this based upon Aryeh Kaplan as well, that maybe evil does come from people, but not from God. But the question then that I'm struggling with right now is that if evil comes from God, sorry, if people do evil, like let's say Hamas is doing evil by raining missiles on Tel Aviv, by raining missiles on any part of Israel, that is pure evil. Would that be to the exclusion of God? Like, would that mean that God is not involved? I guess I would have to say, as I'm thinking this aloud, I would have to say that God's intervention is the lack of casualties. Got to think about that one. You know, you see these attacks in Israel, and there are such tiny little fractions of what potentially could have happened. You know, the Gulf War, there was 38 Scud missiles rained on Israel. 38 Scud missiles. These are 30-foot missiles. And 38 of them rained on Israel by precision guidance, and not one single person died as a result of a Scud missile hit. It's like godly intervention. So I think I would agree with you that Saddam Hussein was evil. He was an evil person. I think I'd agree with you about that. And with regards to the result, however, that's God's intervention. So God doesn't bother their free choice. He allows them to be evil. But at the same time, he does intervene. And when God does not intervene, when God does not intervene, for example, in the Holocaust, or the destruction of the temple, or the Crusades, or some other time, then maybe at that point, it would be a case of hidden good, like the destruction of the temple. When God chose not to intervene, that was God's lack of intervention. That's God's hidden good. Maybe that's what it is. Anyways, lots to think about over here, guys. Are you okay with that last explanation of mine? Let me know if you are okay with that way that I explained it. Any comments here? Mickey, are you okay with the way I explained it? Andy, what do you say with the way I just explained it? And Jan, you too. So God would allow evil people to exist because he gives us freedom of choice. Hidden good fits with God's long-term plan, says Andy. Fair enough. Hidden good does fit with God's long-term plan. Okay. You know what I would like to do, guys, if you don't mind? Would you mind if I pulled out a book of Tanya and I just read you this chapter quickly? Give me a moment. I'm going to pull up the Tanya, that chapter. I'm going to read it to you right now. Just don't go away. Battery's dying. So what I'm about to do, guys, is I just want to read to you. Oh, so Mickey does agree. Phew. Thank God. Mickey, you cookie. Mind the pun. I'm just going to plug this in. Give me a quick second. Okay. So, let's see comments over here. Elena, the cha-cha, perfect example of your thesis. What? I don't understand what you said, Elena. You got to do a spell check. Okay, so this book over here is the book of Tanya. It's volume 4. And basically, I'm just going to take a few minutes to try to wrap this up here. It's by studying this chapter that we'll be able to really get a proper perspective from the Alter Rebbe about this concept. I'm just going to read it to you and give you what to think about. It's not going to take me very long, just a few minutes. I'm going to read the chapter. This, like most of the components, this pastoral letter was addressed to in this letter, the Alter Rebbe demands spiritual service of a caliber so seemingly formidable as to be attainable only by a chosen few. For in it, he calls upon the reader not to desire physical things, even those things that are essential for his well-being and utilized in the service of God. Even such essentials, says the Alter Rebbe, should not be desired for their physicality, but for their spirituality, for the spark of godliness found within them. So much so that even if a person finds that he is lacking, God forbids, life's essentials, he should not be pained by their absence. Rather, he should rejoice in his belief that this is intended for his good, as shall soon be explained. Such a lofty response to deprivation would seem to be within the reach of only a very restricted elite. The Alter Rebbe therefore begins this letter in a singular, indicating that every single individual can attain this level of divine service. For it requires only an absolute faith in God, and that lies hidden within every Jew. Let him but unveil this faith, and he will try to live by it. If Andy, we're in this book of Tanya. If you have the book, it's on volume 4. We're on page 186 of volume 4. This book actually appears on our website. If you go to jewishgardens.com and you search lessons in Tanya, jewishgardens.com, lessons in Tanya, just search lessons in Tanya on jewishgardens.com and see if you can post it here in the comments, because I don't want to waste any time looking it up. Go to book 4 on our website, book 4 of lessons in Tanya, and we're on page 186. So here goes nothing, folks. This is going to be heavy. What the Alter Rebbe is about to say is mind-blowing, and he demands this of every single Jew, this lofty level. To enlighten you with understanding that not by this path will the light of God dwell within one, i.e., by desiring the life of flesh and children and sustenance. The Alter Rebbe is negating a desire that emanates from a craving for pleasure rather than a desire that results from purposeful need. For on this our sages of blessed memory said, nullify your will out of deference to his will. Okay. The clarification of this matter. This can be achieved only when there is an absolute belief in the creator of the universe. This means that the creation of something out of nothing, the belief in the doctrine of perpetual creation. It's only when we believe in the doctrine of perpetual creation that we can come to this elevated state of higher consciousness. The doctrine is, if you haven't heard it from me before, I've said it 1,000 times, is that God creates the universe at every single moment, all over again. If God was to stop creating the universe for even an instant, it would cease to exist. That's the doctrine of perpetual creation. This creation occurs at every time and moment at which all created beings come into being ex nihilo. Now, with this, folks, I just want you to know, here's where I run into the problem of saying that, of classifying the definition of no evil comes from God. Because if everything is being created by God at every single instant in time, including Haman, Hitler, Hamas, and Kim Jong-un and Saddam Hussein, if God is creating them at every single moment in time, think about that for a moment, then would that also be incorporated in the doctrine of perpetual creation and the doctrine of exclusive kindness? The doctrine of exclusive kindness. Think about that. That's what I'm struggling with to clarify, which is why I need to do this inside with you. Help me with your thoughts. Please post your comments here if you understand what I'm saying and if you agree or disagree. So since God creates everything at every single moment, therefore, now when a man will contemplate in the depths of his understanding, and will moreover picture in his mind how he comes into being ex nihilo, something from nothing, at every single moment, so that he is affected at every moment of his existence by God. How can he entertain the thought that he is suffering, or has any afflictions related to children, health, or sustenance, or any other worldly sufferings? For God's blessing is the source of life, goodness, and light. Except that because it is not apprehensible, one imagines that he is suffering or afflicted. In truth, however, quote from the Medrash Bereshis Rabbah 51, verse 3, in truth, however, no evil descends from above. And adds the Alter Rebbe, everything is good. Every single thing is good, though it is not apprehended as such because of its immense and abundant goodness. When something is so intensely good, it's perceived as bad. Just like a kid who's received a prepaid college fund is something that the kid can't relate to, and he thinks dad hates him because he didn't give him a candy. He thinks dad hates him when he doesn't realize that dad has been so good to him. It's like drinking out of a fire hydrant. When you drink out of a fire hydrant, you run into a problem because it actually is going to hurt you, right? And this is the essence of faith for which man was created. Guys, if you're struggling with this, Mickey, Jen, Andy, not so much Andy, Marty, if you're struggling with this, listen to the words of the Alter Rebbe. And this is the essence of the faith for which man was created. To believe that there is no place void of him, God is everywhere. And in the light of the King countenance, quote, there is life. Wherever the King is, wherever God is, there is life, there is only goodness. Accordingly, strength and gladness are in his place, which means the fact that God is found everywhere should encourage a man by strengthening his trust and thereby fill him with joy. For whatever predicament he finds himself in, God is there too. And wherever God is present, there is strength and gladness. Which means if you are depressed, if you think something is evil, you don't believe in God. That's what the Alter Rebbe is saying. This is hell of a hard, hell of a lofty level. Mind the pun. This is the essence of faith for which man is created. And he goes on, because he is but good all of the time. God is only good. God is exclusively good all the time. And to reach this clarity, this faith is the essence of faith for which you and I were placed on this earth. Nothing else. To reach this level of higher consciousness. And the creation, even perpetual, may only be an allowance of continuation, not necessarily God creating Hitler's Amaleks. Andy, I disagree with you respectfully. Perpetual creation is not only an allowance of continuation. It means that God creates Hitler at every single moment from new. I have a very hard time understanding that. But that's, if I'm honest, intellectually honest with myself, that's what it means. It means that God doesn't just allow them. It doesn't just mean that God doesn't destroy them. It means that God actually recreates them from nothing at every single moment in time. Like Achashverosh said, once a decree is made, it cannot be abrogated, but a new decree can be made to counter it. It's not the same with Hashem. God creates us anew every single moment. That's what's clear here in this doctrine of perpetual creation. I think it would be trying to manipulate the doctrine. Let's see what it says. Look, guys, let's put it this way. How about we put it this way? We're not going to solve this in one day, but at least we're going to have the tools to think about it. How's that? And again, can anybody go to our website, please, and post the link of this page? In fact, I'm going to try to do it myself. I want to see if I'm sure I can find it in no time. While I'm talking, I'm searching it on the website. I wanted to say this to you guys, that what we're talking about right now means that you're going to get the tools. You're not going to say, aha, Rabbi Vigler told me something and changed my whole perception of reality. That's not going to happen right now. Right? That's not going to happen right now. What is going to happen right now is that you're going to get some tools to take you 5 steps further or 3 steps further in this tremendously profound concept, which is this faith. Okay, so I'm just pulling up the document right now. I'm going to post you a link so you'll be able to see it for yourself. It's epistle 11. Here it is. Perfect. Got it. Okay, I'm going to post this link right now so you'll be able to read through this in your own time, to be able to allow this notion to percolate in your mind. Here is the link to the Tanya we are learning right now. Good. I posted it. Good. Brandon, if you created something different each moment, it would be as though you made a mistake previously. Okay, so there's a lot to think about here. We really have to identify, to meditate upon this whole concept. But basically, the notion so far is that we still have to allow free will to exist. So it's really tricky allowing free will to exist together with the doctrine of perpetual creation. And that's where Andy's struggling. So let's keep on moving here just to get the tools to finish it up. The tool is like this. We say, Brandon, Hashem cannot make a mistake, but he does give us the freedom of choice. So it's kind of tricky, right? The question is, again, our question is, does no evil, when we say no evil descends from above, does that mean only what God does, but man can do whatever he wants? Or does it mean no evil descends from above includes also the actions of man, which are clearly governed by God? That's our big question right now. I'm not sure if I have the answer to that question, which is why I just wanted to do this chapter with you. We're almost done. Okay, here it is. Therefore, so we said this is the essence of faith. First of all, man ought to be happy and joyous at every time and hour, and truly live by his faith in God. Whom animates him and acts kindly towards him at every moment. God is acting kindly to you at every single moment in time. But he who is grieved and laments demonstrates that he is undergoing some hardship and suffering and lacks some goodness. If you're complaining, it means that you're lacking goodness. He is, heaven forbid, says the Alter Rebbe, like a heretic who denies God's omnipresence. For if he would truly believe, he would realize that in the light of the king's countenance there is life and strength and joy in his place, so that he indeed lacks nothing. This is why the sages of truth, the Kabbalists, strongly rejected the trait of sadness, for it contradicts the Jew's true faith that there is no place devoid of him. The truly faithful, however, is not perturbed by any suffering whatsoever. And with respect to all mundane matters, yes and no are all the same to him in true equality. Good, bad, yes, no, makes no difference. It's all coming from God. I'm thrilled. But he to whom they are not the same demonstrates that he is one of the Erev Rav. You know what the Erev Rav is? These are the Jews, the insincere converts, the Egyptians who converted to Judaism on the way out of Egypt when they saw that the winning team was the Jewish team, so they insincerely converted to Judaism. These were the ones who caused the problems for the Jewish people in the desert, including the sin of the golden calf. So if you become sad from time to time and you believe that God is not being good to you, then you're not a true believer and you're an Erev Rav. You're an insincere Jew, says Alter Rebbe. who act, it demonstrates he's one of the Erev Rav, who acts but for themselves. He loves himself to the extent that he removes himself from under the hand, the authority of God, and he lives the life of the Gentiles, all because of his self-love. You love yourself, you don't love God. This is why he desires the life of flesh and children and sustenance, for that is his good. Indeed, says the Alter Rebbe, it would have been better for him had he not been created. Ouch. For the main purpose of man's creation in this world is to test him. These trials and physical tribulations, folks, this test is the reason why you were created. To ascertain what is in his heart. Whether his heart will turn towards other gods, including yourself and self-love, namely the passions of the body which evolve from the other side, from the side of evil, or whether his desire of the true life which evolves from the living God, based upon the doctrine of perpetual creation and the doctrine of eternal kindness. One must believe that he really lives it, the true life, and that everything related to himself truly evolve in all their details, not from the other side, but directly from God. By God are the steps of man made firm. And while there is yet no word on my tongue, you, God, know it all. God knows the thoughts, words, and deeds of man even before he says them. Accordingly, guys, this is the kicker, I'm wrapping it up. Accordingly, everything is absolutely good, except it is not apprehended by man. When one believes this truly, and this to me is the most transformational verse in the whole Tanya. Whenever one believes this truly, everything becomes good, even on a revealed level. When you actually buy into this, that God is only good and there's no evil, there's only hidden good, then the hidden good turns into revealed good. And that's when you're saved from the Holocaust. That's when Daniel Pearl walks away from the jihadists. That's when the hidden good turns into revealed good. For by such a faith in which one believes that what manifestly seems to be evil. For by such a faith in which one believes that what manifestly seems to be evil, in fact, receives its entire vitality from the supreme good. By this faith, the imagined evil is truly absorbed and sublimated in the concealed supreme good, so that the good becomes palpably revealed to the physical eye. Folks, that is what the Tanya tells us in episode 11 in volume 4 of the Tanya. I know it is mind-blowing, and trust me, it is hard for me to reach this level too. It is not easy. But the Alter Rebbe believes in us, and he says, you can do this. And he addressed this letter in the individual tense, because it's not just for us as a collective, it's for us as individuals to reach this level. We can, the Alter Rebbe calls upon us to do this. A comment from Brandon, and we assume that Robert, I accept that I do not have the ability to understand God's plan for his people. If I understood it all, then I would be equal to God. I'm not that arrogant. Rob, wow. What you just said, Rob, is the most extraordinary expression of faith that the Alter Rebbe is calling for. I accept that I do not have the ability to understand God's plan for his people. If I understood it all, then I would be equal to God. I'm not that arrogant. Robert, I gotta tell you, that was an extraordinary affirmation of faith. And I admire your ability to express yourself so well. I validate anyone on this chat, on this forum, who is struggling with this notion. Anyone and everyone on this forum, I validate your struggle, and I want you to know that I struggle with it too. But every single day when something bad happens, if you look at me, I'll shut down all engines, and I'll go into my zone, and I'll meditate upon this exact notion. And I daven with this every single day to be able to change my perception of reality. Because I know that when I change my perception of what's going on, that's when what's going on changes as well, from hidden good to revealed good. If we could only come in with the attitude of Nachum, Ish Gamzu, the teacher, the Rebbe of Rabbi Akiva, who said anything that happened, he would say, Gamzu letova. This also is for the good. Gamzu letova. Whatever happened, he would say those three words, Gamzu letova. If you can do that, take those three words into your lexicon. We missed our Hebrew lesson today. Let this be our Hebrew lesson. These three words, Gamzu letova. Gam means also. Gam is also. Zu, this. Letova, tov means good, for good. Also, this is for the good. Anything that happened, by merely verbalizing that, Nachum Ish Gamzu, the Rebbe of Rabbi Akiva, was expressing the deep truth which the Tanya just taught us. And that deep truth was that everything that happens is hidden good. And the moment that I can verbalize that faith, it causes the hidden good to become revealed good. Folks, thank you for joining me on this incredible journey. Today is an incredible day, by the way, because today is the day that is the Yortzeit of the Rebbe Rashab, the fifth Chabad Rebbe, who is the Maimonides, the encyclopedia of all Chabad Hasidic philosophy. I should wrap it up in today's Yom Yom. Brandon, thanks for your honesty, Rabbi. This is a big challenge for me, and I'm glad it is a challenge for you too. Brandon, absolutely. Absolutely. Remember what the Alter Rebbe said in Tanya. He said in this chapter that it is for this faith that man was created. What an incredible, incredible validation. And this is the essence of faith from which man was created, to believe that there is no place void of him. And in the light of the king's countenance, there is life. Accordingly, strength and gladness are in his place, because he is but good all the time. I posted the link for you. Please review it. Let me know if you want me to study it with you more in depth in a subsequent class, because we've been really struggling with this whole issue through the coronavirus thing and through the Farbrengen the other night. But this is, I hope you understand now, the foundation of my perception of reality. And I have sturdy shoulders to rely on. This is not just me. This is the Alter Rebbe. This is the Medrash. This is the Talmud. This is what King David struggled with. When you say the book of Tehillim, when you read these verses in Tehillim, you'll realize, read the verse of Tehillim and understand that King David is struggling to reach this level. That's what he's trying to do. What do you think Psalm 23 is all about? I want to tell you, oftentimes on Psalm 23, we read it on day 4 of the month. Every time we do day 4 of the month, Ron Collins always says we do chapter 23 from the Bima, and always inevitably Mickey will be like, I don't like this chapter, or Phil, or what's the name? Phil will say, I don't like this chapter, it's too dark for me. And I want to point out to you the right context. Let's read this chapter carefully. Beautiful chapter, Psalm 23 in Psalms, in the Tehillim. Look at this. A psalm by David, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall lack nothing. King David is struggling to reach, Brandon, your faith. That's what he's struggling to reach. He's struggling with what you're struggling with, what I'm struggling. We're all struggling with the same thing. Sorry, Mickey. No offense. Maybe it's not you, maybe it's him. Okay, you struggle with other chapters of Tanya. But look, read this chapter now in the context of King David struggling to reach the faith of Gamzula Tova. That everything is for the good, of seeing the hidden good and the evil that clearly was facing him. And remember, King David was struggling with King Saul, who was trying to kill him. He didn't say, well, everything is good except for when King Saul is trying to kill me. He didn't say everything is good except for when Doeg, my advisor, or King Saul's advisor, is speaking Lashon Hara against me. He didn't say that. He said everything is good always. Look at this. Look closely. So read this as a psalm, a short psalm, which is a struggle to reach this degree of faith. A psalm by David, the Lord is my shepherd. He said these words soaked with tears. I shall lack nothing. He lays me down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters, even though it doesn't look like it. He revives my soul. He directs me in the paths of righteousness for the sake of his name. And here it is. Though I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, life is horrible, says King David. They're trying to kill me. My own wife was taken away from me by her father. She was given to another man. Though I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. That's what King David is saying. For you are with me. King David is reading this book of Tanya, which was published 2,000 years later. He knew what the Alter Rebbe knew. For why is there no evil? Look at what he's saying. Mickey's fighting your point. He's grappling with what you're grappling with. Though I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. This is not evil. In fact, in Hebrew, lo ira ra, you could almost read it as I see no evil. You can actually read it in Hebrew, lo ira ra, I see no evil. That is mind-blowing interpretation here. Even when I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I see no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they will comfort me. And Andy points that out too. What does it mean, your rod and your staff, they will comfort me? Your rod is your gun. Your gun will comfort me. Heaven, what are you talking about? What do you mean your gun will comfort me? It means that which you use to hurt me. God, that comforts me because I know it's you. I know it's only a disguise. It's a masquerade. It's a mask. It's a mirage. It's an illusion. It's not real. It's all really good. You will prepare a table for me before my enemies. In front of my enemies. You're right there. You have anointed my head with oil. My cup is full. Only goodness and kindness shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord for many long years. Friends, that's exactly what King David is struggling with. And when you read the words of Tehillim, I want you to read them. Try to put yourself in his shoes. Or maybe put King David in your shoes. As you, Brandon, struggle with this. And you, Mickey, and Jan, and Marty. Marty, are you okay with this? Did I lose you? Are you still there? Or are you okay with this, with my interpretation? I think at the end of the day, to wrap this all up, we can say that no evil descends from above. There's only hidden good. This is a very difficult concept to get comfortable with. But at least we can be confident in the thought that it is for this realization that we were put on this earth. Nothing else. This is the ultimate faith, the test for which we were placed on this earth. And once we know that, we're at least validated in the struggle that we're facing over here. King David struggles with it. Whether that means that people can do evil or not, based upon King David, I know it's hard. I know you think I'm crazy. But King David seems to be saying that there is no evil. He's talking about his enemies. He's talking about his enemies. You know what? Maybe you could interpret this to mean that you set a table for me before my enemies. In other words, it's my enemies, but I know you're right there, so I'm not afraid. Maybe that's the happy medium here. They're evil, but God is always with me, so I'm protected. Maybe that's the happy medium, and maybe we can all agree to that specific point. I just want to finish up, folks. We didn't do a Yom Yom today. It's a very special day. It's a yard site of the Rebbe Rashab, the fifth Chabad Rebbe. He passed away in Rostov in Russia. And I just want to do a quick Yom Yom. Yard site of my father, the Rebbe Reb Shalom Ber, who passed away on Saturday night, the 2nd of Nisan, 1920. 100 years ago today in Rostov, and is interred over there in Rostov. 100 years ago today, he was the one who took Chabad Hasidic philosophy and he really made an encyclopedia out of it. I wonder if I could look up this thing, because you know what? We are so into this stuff, all of us on this virtual Torah study. I want to see if I can find what the Rebbe Rashab had to say about this particular stuff, because if I could find him expanding on this, it's going to be really beautiful stuff. I'm going to look it over Shabbos. The first discourse the Rebbe Shalom Ber, the Rebbe Rashab, delivered after the passing of his father, the Rebbe Marash, was on the second day of Chol HaMoed Sukkot in 1882, beginning Keser Yitnu Lecha. The last public discourse in his lifetime was delivered on Purim on 5680, which was 1920, beginning Reishis Goyim Amalek, Ketzam Lacheshach, the beginning of nation, the first of nations, Amalek. He will put an end to the darkness. And with this, guys, I'm going to have to wrap it up. It's almost Shabbos today. Thank you for joining me here today. It's been a real conversation. I love it. I love your engagement. I love your challenging me, and I'm grateful for your honesty. I think I would definitely say that Rob Berger's comment was the absolute crown of today's conversation. I accept that I do not have the ability to understand God's plan for his people. If I understood it all, then I would be equal to God. I'm not that arrogant. I love that comment. And coming from a lawyer who is invested in this real world, to be able to say that, I think, Rob, what you just did was to fulfill your purpose in creation. I just love how you said that. Thank you, guys. I'm going to call it a day here. Have a wonderful Shabbos. And I want to encourage you, please, to keep this Shabbos in its entirety. Keep this Shabbos. Show your faith. Strengthen and celebrate your faith like you've never done it before. Don't get in the car. Once, Shabbos begins today, I don't know what time, probably 7 o'clock till 8:15 tomorrow night. 7 o'clock tonight, before 7, turn off your cell phone, turn off the internet, shut the computer off, put it in the off mode, the phone in the off mode, lock it up somewhere, put away the car keys, and just spend time with your wife, with your husband, with your children, whoever's home. Just be together. Take a good book. Take a Torah study. Think about what we just learned. Have a cup of coffee. Meditate. Discuss it with your spouse. Think about it. Read the newspaper. Do something. Keep the Shabbos. Daven, but make Kiddush tonight. Light the candles before dark, before sundown, before 7:10, I think it is. Daven a little bit. Learn with your spouse. Learn some Torah. Meditate. Experience holiness. Experience the Shabbos. Thank you, guys. It's been a real pleasure studying with you today. We'll see you on Monday. We don't study on Sunday. I take a little break on Sunday mornings. We'll see you Monday morning. God bless you. Shabbat shalom. And we'll catch you later. If you don't forget to pick up your matzah at the shul. Ashley's here 10 to 5 every day. Pick up your matzah, and we'll see you later. Shalom.